You've probably seen a lot of talk on the internet today about the release of the Switch Lite, the strictly portable Nintendo Switch that has been released to basically take the place of the 3DS. Now, the 3DS has been relatively dead for a while, not many new games coming out for it. There was a Persona game, I think, earlier this year that came out for it, but besides that, no big releases slated to come to the 3DS, and obviously with the release of a new portable console, I don't expect to see any. However, I think that the 3DS, or the 2DS, or whatever you want to call it, or the new 3DS, because there's so many different versions of this handheld, is something that's definitely still worth your time, particularly at the price that they're going to go for the rest of this year, next year, for the foreseeable future at least. The price on these consoles is going to be down until 5-10 years from now, where it becomes a nostalgia thing and people want to go back and buy them. Like we're seeing with the Game Boy Advance, some of that getting back up in value here again. But there are 4 key models in the 3DS family. You have that traditional 3DS that came out at launch. That is the one that I have. It's that smaller form factor that you got in the regular DS as well. Then you have the new 3DS XL. It's larger. It's the XL version. It has the new prefix in front of it, which references the fact that it is faster than the other original 3DS. It does play a few games that are exclusive to the new 3DS XL, but for the most part, the new 3DS XL and the 3DS XL, the biggest thing that separates them is the screen size. Then you have the 2DS, which is a flat system that came out a few years ago. It was being sold on Black Friday last year, I think, for like $60. If there are any of them left to be sold on Black Friday this year, I expect to see them at $40 or $50. It's not a great experience because the system is literally a slab and it does not fold. I think that it's only good for a small child. And I don't even know that a small child would get a lot out of the 3DS library. I think you'd have to at least be probably 9 or 10 years old before you could really get into the great games that are in this library. Then you have what I believe is the best choice of them all, and that is the new 2DS XL. So obviously it lacks the 3D functionality of the 3DS models. However, it does play the 3DS games and those select few new 3DS titles that can only be played on the new 3DS. So the 2DS XL, unlike the original 2DS, folds, which is great. It's bigger. It's the XL model, which is great. And it plays, those select few games while having that faster interface. These go brand new for, I want to say, $120 to $140. You pay attention to Black Friday, and I'm sure they will drop below $100 because the 3DS family of consoles is on its way out. It's been replaced now. And we saw those deep discounts on the original 2DS model last Christmas, so I expect to see that on the new 2DS XL this year as well. Now, you can find these used, at least in my area, for $60 to $80, and most of them look like they've hardly been played, which is really a shame. Now, I understand that 3DS games can still be relatively expensive. It is a portable game that's $40, and most people look at portable games and they're like, well, aren't those games free with microtransactions, and you're going to kind of end up paying as much as you want for a lot of mobile games. But I think that there's a great novelty in playing these 3DS games because you purchase the game up front. There's no microtransactions after that. You get this full experience from it, and I think that the homebrew community on the 3DS family of consoles only further adds to the experience. So if you were to get a new 2DS XL, what you'd be able to play on that is those select few games that were exclusive to the new 3DS XL. You'd be able to play the 3DS games. You'd be able to play the DS games, the Game Boy Advance games via homebrew, as well as the Game Boy Color and regular Game Boy games via homebrew, or some of them maybe through the Virtual Console. If they were released on there, you could pick up the files for those. Then there's also the SNES games, the NES games that you're able to get through homebrew. So by modding the console, you're able to unlock so much more, as well as play backup games. So you can download things like CIA files to install onto the console that basically let you play the game without the original game cartridge in. You could even rip your own CIA files from the game cartridge. So basically, if you were to buy, say like I did, a 32 gigabyte SD card for your 3DS, I want to say 15 games on that 32 gigabyte card. The card is not full, but I have like 15 games on there. So I bring that 3DS anywhere. Not only am I not worried about, losing games because I have, all these loose little chips of games to lose, I got them all in one little handheld device that I can put in my pocket. I don't have to have some sort of specialized carrying case to fit my extra games in. It's all confined in one handheld, and I think that it provides a great experience. Like I said, have the original launch console. I do not use the 3D feature, and I do wish the screen was bigger. So I do think that the new 2DS XL is definitely the way to go. So for the low price the 3DS and 2DS go for these days, as well as the low price that SD cards go for, I really don't think that you can go wrong with buying one of these handhelds. I think that there is a certain great novelty that comes with the experience of being able to play a game that's not riddled with microtransactions, being able to do it completely offline without any concern of, your data usage or even having data connection for that matter. So if you've not experienced any of the games in the 3DS library, if it's not something that you can emulate or want to emulate for that matter on your phone, because emulating the dual screen of a DS console is kind of difficult on the phone to really get a great experience out of it, then I highly recommend you pick up the original hardware. It's not that expensive, and I think that there are a lot of great games in the 3DS library, as well as the DS library for that matter, especially if you're a Pokemon fan, because obviously all of these generations, from Generation 1 all the way up to Sun and Moon, can be played on one handheld, and I think that that is absolutely awesome. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.